I thought I'd make a video regarding plague doctors because everybody keeps asking me about plague doctors, and no, I don't have a plague doctor costume or a mask. But people keep saying in the comments, why didn't you include a plague doctor mask in your list of gas masks? Plague doctors had gas masks. And the answer is sort of yes and no, although it's mostly no. But I thought I'd go into that. So, if you're not familiar with the history, during some of the historical plagues you had both the Black Death and the Great Plague. But this is more in terms of the Great Plague. I think this is around 16th century and 16th, 17th century. I'm not sure on the actual exact dates of it, but you had some practitioners of medicine, which is a bit of a loose term if you go back then when nobody was really a proper doctor, who would treat plague victims, but they were more doing it as a census thing, as in they needed to find out how many people were infected with plague and who wasn't. So rather than treating people, they kind of just were plague counters. And to try and prevent themselves becoming infected, they wore thick sort of robes or gowns which had sort of oil-based sort of coating on it to stop stuff getting through, and they wore these masks with the big beaks. And the masks are quite clever for the time, and they do bear a lot of resemblance to a gas mask, but the problem is they didn't work, which is the big fault. So the masks had two glass eyepieces, a bit like the lenses on a gas mask, and they had this big beak. And in the beak they filled it with like nice smelling things basically. And the reason for nice smelling things was, in the medieval period, if you go back quite a long way, there was a theory on disease and it was called miasma. And the idea was that bad smells cause disease, and it's sort of, if you think about it, it's how somebody without an understanding of sort of airborne diseases might think it happens. So they're kind of partially correct, but they're not. So rather than it being bacteria or something in the air that you inhale, they thought that things that were ill gave off bad smells, and if you inhaled those bad smells you would get ill. So they have sort of the right logic, but they're not going about it the right way. So in a plague doctor's beak they had sort of roses and different flowers in there and things like that, were meant to smell nice. And the idea was that when you were inhaling you'd smell the things in the nose, so therefore you couldn't get ill. Of course that didn't work, a lot of them would die of the plague, but the idea is sort of there. So if they had a proper filter unit in the beak, it might have worked. So if they put some sort of cotton or something down there that was like a particulate filter, or they'd shove some activated carbon in there, sort of charcoal in there, it might have actually worked. But actually plague doctors had a very low sort of rate of catching it, considering the job they did. And that was mostly, as I was saying, because they had the sort of oiled sort of gowns on and everything like that. And the reason they work well is because it's a bit like an NBC suit. There was very little of the plague doctor that could actually come into contact with somebody with the plague. So they often use sticks as well to sort of prod people who were infected, because as I said, they didn't really treat people. So you have somebody that's basically in a full-on chemical suit with a pseudo gas mask. So yes and no. Did the plague doctors have working gas masks? No, they did not have working gas masks. But had they kind of tried to invent a gas mask very early on? Yes, in a way they had, but as said, they aren't real gas masks because they didn't actually do anything. If somebody invented a gas mask to stop chemical weapons, it did nothing and you died when a chemical weapon was used. I wouldn't really say it was a functioning gas mask. So hopefully that's explained a bit of that. They had the right sort of idea, but they went about it the wrong way, if that makes sense. If they'd have understood that they actually had to block stuff rather than just making it smell nice, then the mask might have actually had a function. But as a result, they still would have caught plague at a lesser rate than most people, because they were wearing thick clothing that didn't let water through, and they were, you know, blocking a lot more of their face off than they would have done as a normal person, you know, just going there in their normal clothes to look at somebody with the plague. So, there you go. Did plague doctors have gas masks? Yes and no.